What's up, everybody? How are all of you doing? And we have Mr. Ryan Bartholomew from Doja Pak, the CEO and founder. What's going on, my guy?
I'm good, man. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Good to be here, man. Good to fucking be here. Can we curse?
I told
Okay, cool.
myself I wasn't
Cool,
gonna
cool.
smoke, but let me just finish this.
Yeah, you do your
We'll
thing.
kick into professional mode.
Yeah,
at
do
that
your
point.
thing. You need a minute?
Huh?
You need a minute?
Nah, I'm good.
All right,
Kick
bet,
off.
bet.
I'm just,
Bet,
finish
bet,
this
bet.
real quick.
Cool. So, what's new, kid?
Barcelona, like the '92 Dream Team.
Yeah, bro. There's a lot to talk about, in particularly a lot to talk about Barcelona, for sure. For sure.
Fresh off. A lot of people here fresh off the plane, man. My boy Tom from Leaf Mag, he said he landed and drove straight here. My boy Jacob did the same thing. Went home, did some laundry real quick, jumped in the car, and drove up here, man.
Yeah,
It's a real hustle. That's a real hustle.
Yeah,
If you're not globe trotting and still making it to Hall of Flowers, then
That's crazy. I was about to say shout out to all the road warriors that made it, but then we talking about globe trotting. Yeah, this is worldwide, wide. Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, so I too am fresh off of the Spanibus tour. Good Pizza Times Grow Bags did Spanibus real heavy. Seen the whole city, seen all the clubs, and particularly your club. Yeah, it was a good time, and I knew it was time for me to go see the other side of the world on the cannabis scene worldwide, because it kind of reminded me of New York, where everybody from our country goes to New York on 420, and it's kind of like it's a big hub, outside of LA, of course. And then you got Barcelona was just like I got that same vibe.
yeah, sad that it was the last one, man. So
Yeah,
that was the last one of I think it was 22 years they ran it, but it was the energy was high this year, and it was cool because it was like it was. This was the first year that everybody was talking a lot about the global export. Previously it's been like more of a seed event. People going to coffee shops and at local social clubs and stuff. But the export rhetoric was really frequent this year. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. We're gonna definitely dive into that. You have some special stories about how that unfolded in your journey, which we'll tap back in later on. But we're gonna kick it off with let's talk some genetics. I'm very curious on your answer on this one, kid.
So
So let's talk about the role of genetic development in scaling a cannabis business, innovation and evolving market, having the strain variety to scale, and building a signature profile. Tell me your thoughts
yeah, I
on
love
that.
that question. That's the best question that you can start with. So I think that in scaling a cannabis brand, that the genetic the genetic development is probably one of the most like least thought about things, as far as like people think about a lot of other things before they actually think about that, and you can see that in the genetic variety that we see that's being grown in the market. So it's kind of like a lot of times when we're thinking on the level of like a California rollout, and like, okay, we want a strain that hits hard in California. You can make that happen, but it's like, is this a strain that's going to be able to be applicable to multiple markets? You have enough genetic ownership over this strain that when you go to another market, if that's your goal, are you going to be able to give those guys the cuts that matter? A lot of these people are going to other markets and finding the problem of, okay, we gave these guys our genetics, they already have the same cuts, they don't want to run. A lot of these places, they don't want to run the same thing twice. It doesn't matter if in California, we both share that we both have a candy strain. If they're already growing a candy strain for another brand, they're not going to want to grow a candy strain for you. That's just, they need a little bit more genetic variety. At the end of the day, they have to be able to sell that work. You know what I mean? So I think that genetic development is the base of like the most probably important thing that we can do in this industry right now, to kind of like hedge ourselves against the external factors. You know what I mean? Because we can't control like MSO involvement, we can't control like the takeovers that are going on, but what we can control is our relevancy through this this foundation that is genetic expression. We have people that travel all over the world to come to California to try what could be arguably considered the best cannabis flavor profiles in the world. And this is what you said about the flavor development is like, to be able to have a genetic that brings people in as a destination to your to purchase flower from your company. that's an investment, and it just takes a long time to reach that level. It starts by being known for good flour, but it gets to a point where you have to be known for good varieties too. And,
Absolutely.
you know,
Do you, off the top of your head, do you know any varieties that come to your mind that work in all markets
I mean,
from your experience?
I think permanent marker's done really well in most markets. That's a pretty solid performer as far
Yeah.
as people like in the East, in the West, everywhere that
Yeah.
you put it out, it's done well. It was the number one selling strain in Florida last year.
Oh, no shit.
Under our name.
Nice. And who are you working with to develop these strains? Like, who are the main breeders you're working with? I know the answer, but maybe somebody else does.
Yeah, so permanent markers from Seed Junkie. Of course, that was from one of our previous projects, 2022. We were working with him and debuted that strain. But everything we do now is proprietary, in-house, and it's done by an individual. Rusty, the Duke of Herb. He's based in Northern California, and he's been a founding a member of our collective, and been around since day one. Since before the brand, actually been around since before Doja. So everything in house now, and we select with our friends from Preferred Gardens. We select with our guys down in LA, Global Genetics. I'm doing a pheno hunt constantly. Brian at the flowery in Florida is popping 120 seeds per cycle. So I'm basically 4 for 4 on all our pheno hunts with him as far as pulling out new varieties. And so something that we've been focusing on lately is that I'm doing like regional pheno hunts to be able to bring regional menus of like local flavors that we found in those markets that we can kind of use to target those markets. Because like you said, some strains do work in every market, but sometimes people have regional taste preferences. So the ability to be able to have proprietary genetics being selected and pheno hunted and artfully selected in these different regions is giving us kind of like a little bit more involvement in the because at the end of the day, some of these people just sign licensing deals, try to get a check, and that's it. That's not the name of our game. We're trying to actually like have a high level of ownership over what we're doing. We're trying to bring a new program. We're trying to come with stuff that people feel like in Florida that we don't even have in California, which they do. They have probably the best perm cross right now is going to be rolling out in July in Florida, and we don't have that cut here. They selected it there. It was from our gear that we made seeds from in El Dorado Hills, but they're selecting it and are cultivating it. And
what's the cross?
Sour Perm 37 is the permanent marker pollinated by the Sour Diesel BX1 number 16. It was a selection. The Sour Diesel was a selection I made. It was a back cross Sour Diesel that I selected to have the most closest attributes to the sour, original sour. You know what I mean? So
like gas sour, not sweet sour.
So the outcross that he made with this was back in the day when the sour was still cool.
Yeah.
He took like the 18 coffins to the sour.
Okay.
And we had seeds of that, and then lately he got an AJ sour cut that was close enough. You know what I mean? Like
sure.
And so he hit it with that male. And we made the seeds, and then that was something that we hunted with Joey at Global Genetics. The number 16 of that was the one that looked the most, smelled the most, and tasted the most like what we remembered. And that was what I was trying to get that ingredient. And we ran it by itself. It was cool. It wasn't something that I would roll out by itself, but it was the perfect ingredient for this cross. So then we Rusty reversed that selection, kind of locking in that phenotypic expression from that exact phenotype. And then we pollinated the Zangria, the permanent marker, the LCG, and those are the ones that we just hunted in Florida. So
dope.
Sour Perm 37, which is the permanent marker. That's from the perma diesel packs that we just released in Barcelona.
Fire.
Yeah. So,
that's exciting.
We release seeds of everything too, man. We're trying to let other, people could go buy these are feminized seeds. So like you can go buy these seeds and pop the seeds and find the exact same quality phenotypes we have. You just gotta put in the numbers.
Dope. What would your advice be to a brand that's, in a situation or creeping up on a situation like you, like, you have your genetics at said facilities. You are responsible for grabbing those genetics so they don't get given out, hoard out, whatever you want to call it. How do you lock that in, bro, without letting any of them get out?
Well, I mean, I think that you got to go closest to single source as possible. So, eventually you need to be fully integrated, and these should be our goals. I mean, a lot of people have along the way have told me that, a lot of people have asserted their opinion on how it doesn't, you don't need to own production, whatever it's that. But at the end of the day, you really kind of do need to own your own production. So that's one part to kind of like combat against that. But additionally to that, it's just about relationships, man. I got relationships with guys like Dave from Preferred that I just know he's not going to he doesn't rock like that. Like dude has enough pride. He won't even like respectfully, dude's not even rocking any of the strains we're pheno hunting together. Like he's doing his own breeding projects and only rolling out
Yep.
his own strains that he bred in house.
Yep.
You get
Shout
what I'm
out to
saying? So
Preferred,
that's
yep.
like that's how we're all supposed to be doing it. You know what I mean? And like and shout out to the homies that don't have the time and space to do that yet. Like that give me action and shit. Like dog and them. Like we're coming hard with that too. And I'm trying to kick back to them. That's my whole goal is to be able to give back to people. That's why we sell seeds and all this shit. Like
Yep.
obviously we want to be successful, but you want to be able to leave a legacy means you gave back to the community in some kind of way. You know what
No
I'm saying?
doubt.
So
Solid.
seed productions giving opportunities to up and coming people that especially in these new markets where we were at, like in Europe, like they don't just have access to these cuts like these like our boys like Life Sauce can go get this cut. Like they can't go get that cut. They're in Europe. They have
No
to
doubt.
fucking pop seeds or somebody's gonna sell them a cut and say it's this and it's fake. So it's cool to be able to have verified shit. They see it in action in the U.S., notably in California. We're rolling out Marks a lot right now. We got it it's hitting the indoor batches are hitting next week. So
Marks a lot. Let's talk about that for a second, bro. That was probably the best mixed light pack I've ever smoked in my life.
yeah, so we rolled the mix.
Goddamn.
We rolled the full spectrum batch out already in the California rec market.
Tight.
But I got the and shout out to my boy Dave for growing full spectrum mixed light work that comes out like indoor. You know what I'm saying?
That's a fact.
We were rolling out the indoor batch, and so Mark's a Lot is another in-house proprietary blend that we made in-house, and it's the white taffy hit with permanent marker pollen.
Nice.
So basically, it was a reversal of the perm. So the permanent marker was the donor. So normally the donor is going to carry on the more stronger traits, but I kind of selected away from the perm with the number 8 because we have a lot of like very, first of all, we still run perm, which we're retiring soon, but we, at this point it's still a classic. So I can't just like get rid of it yet. So I didn't want to just have like all these profiles that were the same. So we selected something with the number 8 that gave us a little bit more genetic variety in our menu, and it's something that's different from everything else. It's kind of this like new profile, man. It kind of has a super, unique linger. The taste is very
Yeah, for sure.
mouth stain.
She's a keeper. So,
Sure.
as a California brand of cannabis, right, what can we do to uphold the reputation for having the best in the world?
Once again, man, it comes down to genetics. I mean, like really, like this is a game of genetics. At this point, we've proven concept that people can grow weed at the same quality all over the world. Like Cali weed as a concept is cool, but it's like, that's where the culture started, and I respect that, and that's where we're based out of. But my Michigan batches are just as good as the Cali batches. The Florida batches are amazing. Like everything's getting on that level, and I'm even seeing dudes like Canadian dudes that moved to Spain and are growing Gelinade that just won first place in Barcelona at Spannabis, and I'm smoking that, and I'm like, yo, this Gelinade's crazy. So it's like, they can grow good weed all over the world. So what differentiates you once again is like to become, a trend. That's what I feel like people are looking at us all over the world to see what we're going to do next. And so it's like one thing that we do have is we have access to these genetics. And, one thing that we have the ability to do is to be able to pollinate them, take them through the generations, create some kind of ownership over this situation, and then be able to release that back out to people and grow our genetic footprint, which just adds to the legacy. So I feel like to really set the trend for California as a a market where things originate and where people kind of like follow suit, I think the culture, it is strongest here, and I think that the most innovative thing that we can do is come with like unique varieties, man, like this peach tree I'm smoking right now. It's just like this is something that's unlike anything that I've ever smoked in my life, and to be able to carry that profile along, and we're already doing the breeding with it, so it's like, you know, all the crosses of it are going to be coming out soon. So to be able to like give people the option to be able to pop those seeds too and find what we found, and you know what I'm saying? It's like,
Oh yeah,
that's what it is. It's California got to carry the torch by like really putting out that work right now. It's not just about being a brand. It's not just about being like, you got to be like doing something with the plant, you know?
absolutely.
And it's like, if that's not the goal, then it's just for money. And if it's just for money, it's going to be hard to compete with all the big money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If we're going to play the money game, it's going to be hard to compete. If you make them play on our field, it's going to be hard for them to compete.
That's right.
And it's like, so that's where I'm at with it. You got to play on my field now. I'm coming with all new genetics. I'm coming, everything's in-house. We're going to be single source. We're going to step the bar up so high that it's going to be really hard for these MSOs to touch that with money alone. You're going to have finished product expertise. That's what we have.
Yeah.
And we have that from years and years of doing this shit. We've already lost it. As much money as they put in, I probably already lost that doing this shit on my own.
No doubt.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a good segue into my next one. You walked me right into that, my friend. Why finished product expertise is more important than investment money? Real quality curation.
Wow, that was a good question. So I think that like at the end of the day, like, you know, you can come with like a prospectus, you know what I'm saying? You can like have ideas of what you're going to do when you get in the game with this investment money, but it's like, unless you have real operators, like a lot of these guys that are sitting out here right now, it's like, it's going to be hard to really conceptualize that. So, you know, it comes down to like being able to grow a product that you can, you know, growing a product and growing a product that you can sell for a high value is a totally different scenario. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you can look at this from a numbers game and just be like, okay, well, we have this many lights, such and such. We should hit this kind of yield, such and such. We can get this price for a pound because that's the going rate of this commodity, such and such. Boom. Wait till it all hits the shelves and no one's buying it. Now what? Now you have all this shit, but wait, it doesn't stop. Your plants are still growing. You know what I mean? You understand what I'm saying? So it just starts to add
Next
up.
batch is coming in 2 weeks.
That's why you hear the bottom dropping out of cannabis, because you have a lot of these guys that put in big money. They can't sell their product. Next thing you know, they're finding that with that bottom dollar where they can produce the most and they can sell it for the price that's closer, you know what I mean? Where they're making just enough margin to survive, and now they just ran the price of that level of cannabis down to the lowest it's ever been. You know, and that's where we're at right now. But it's like, how do you compete against that? You get what I'm saying? And you do that by creating genetic diversity, by having something that's a destination product, having a product that really lives up to the name. Fuck the hype. Like, excuse me for the language, is that you can't hide behind this going forward. You know what I mean? You have to really come with that work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to come with that work.
Yeah, QC is huge, bro.
So yeah, and then to go to your question is like, how can you grow a product that everybody likes if you don't even consume this product? You know what I'm saying? How do you, I mean, or you know what? Maybe, you know, not to X guys out that don't smoke. Some guys, you have to have somebody around, right?
You have a team.
And the thing is that, you know, a lot of these you know, the multi-state operators, they're going to win in their own lane, but it's like, are they going to be able to, you know, are they going to be able to stand the test of time? Because really, at the end of the day, the consumers are getting more educated, and they do know what is real, and they know what they want. And, you know, it's like, it's not always about giving them what they want. Sometimes it's about doing what we want, and then they start to see that, and then they're like, oh, damn, that's innovative. Wow, I gravitate towards that. I like what they're doing. And that's how you know, that's how you set up that, you know, that hedge. And it's like the genetic development thing coupled with that product quality expertise is what's going to make you win in this industry. And that's what you have to focus on. And, you know, obviously through the business. But
yeah, that's the sauce for sure.
we know how to smoke weed. We smoke weed all day. I smoke an ounce a day. So how could you, you know, how you know?
How could you not know?
How could you, man?
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's valuable information at the end of the day, man. You better have somebody, you know, in the wine game. Those guys have sommeliers that taste wine all day. That's what they do. You know what I'm saying? That's what we do.
Yeah, and to your point, like I've seen more and more companies, you know, companies like us that are really from this culture, that really care about the plant. Like they have teams, QC teams, like, you know, the company
That's a
might
good
be
idea,
too big.
honestly. Like,
Yeah, the
Connector
QC
does
teams.
that. That's
That was one of the companies I was making reference to. Absolutely.
They want to put me on the QC team, and respectfully, I just don't have enough lungs for them because I'm already doing that shit myself. I got to head the Doja QC team, but that's a good idea though, and I respect them for putting me on the nomination. I would put me on the nomination.
No doubt. Yeah, man. Real smokers only. So how do you feel about?
That's
And
why
this,
Connect is dominating out here. That's why shout out to Connect.
yeah,
That's why they're
man,
dominating because they know they build fucking machines to smoke joints and then figure out what's wrong with the ash. You understand what I'm saying? It's like, okay,
definitely,
we're gonna get to the bottom of this. You don't like the way shit's burning, watch this. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And that's what you got to do out here, man. That's the
yeah.
whole point. You know what I mean? And that's a legacy. You know, that's a legacy branding action right there. You know what I'm saying?
Know what you know about how important quality control is. Like, how do you feel about people? And this is typically growers that bash brands that know how to curate menus at such a high level to ensure their customers are happy. Like it's a necessary thing, but some people I've seen lately have been shitting on the QC crew.
Yeah.
Like being a brand that doesn't necessarily grow but can QC a proper menu of
Right.
quality.
I think that's important, and there's brands like that that dominate. You know, we started kind of like that, and I
Yeah,
think
you did.
I feel like it's kind of important to just start to put more and more ownership over the process as you go. You know, but I feel like there's always going to be this little thing between and people in this industry that smoke and people that don't smoke, and people that grow and people that don't grow, and we all just need to coexist, and everybody has their
Definitely.
lane. You know what I mean? Like I deal with a lot of my partners that I deal with in Doja, they don't smoke, and I don't want them to smoke because if they smoke, then they're not going to be doing what they need to be doing because they're doing some shit at a high level that they probably need their full capacity. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you don't want to work with me if I'm not smoking. What are we going to be doing then? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like then I'm just going to be standing there because that's what I do normally. So. You understand what I'm saying? You gotta have, everybody has their role, man. It's like, you gotta understand this shit from a product. We are consumers first. Those are the consumer brand. We're a consumer owned brand. But at the same time, you gotta have the right kind of people on the team too. So.
And that was the answer I was looking for. Because the most successful squads, teams, whatever, they have the master grower that's crushing it. Sorry, I didn't mean to use that name. That name's kind of funny. The expert grower that's been doing it for years. You got the QC squad. You got people, and everybody just puts their ego aside. And if the batch don't pass, the batch don't pass. Bulk it out, do whatever you got to do. But like, that's
We've had a lot of falling out over batches that didn't pass our QC, and then people took it personally.
yeah,
But, whatever.
it's a thing.
With the relationship can get back. It was never, you know what I'm saying? That's not really in anyone's worst. That wasn't anyone's fault. I mean, obviously things happen. The same thing could happen to us. I feel bad to even be in that situation, which is why,
Sucks.
it's like, we've worked with people that we can consistently rely on, because that's
Yeah.
not really a situation that we have an issue with our people. So it's like, it's just about finding the right people to work with, man. This whole thing is about relationships, and that's something that us legacy people that have been in this game since prior to the current regulations that we got to just keep in mind that it's like we got to band together and work together. We got big money that's out here that's competing on a different level, and the only way that we're gonna be able to compete with that is to be able to stick together. So that's why we got to have guys growers and guys that do the branding thing, and we got to have guys that smoke the weed and the guys that don't smoke the weed that know how to do the other part, and you understand what I'm saying? And
Oh, yeah.
do put all this together, understand how to run the business, delegate the tasks, and that's how you compete with the MSOs.
Yeah, man. And everybody on the team just got to know, like, the most important position on the team is your position. You know what I mean? Everybody needs to play their position, just like you said.
Facts, bro. Facts.
What can independent operators do to compete in an industry dominated by MSOs?
Man, once again, a great question. I think that's pretty much what this whole topic's been covering. I feel like we've been doing really well, but something that is rooted with us is just that we can't really help it. It's like it's just part of the culture of what we've been part of and what we do. And at this point, like it started out by us just paying homage to the dudes that did it before us, and we still do that. And shout out to them. But it's like at this point, it's a lot of it's a worldwide situation. So
It really is.
just being able to stay in touch with the culture, and we do that through the love of the plant. This is something that we do through passion. It's not a money thing. I'm not a money guy. I'm not like a branding guy. I'm a plant, a plant lover, and I might not touch plants every day at this point in my life. Maybe I will at some point in my life. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to that, and I'm definitely like, as far as like the number of plants that are being cultivated from the seeds that we created are more than the stars in the sky, man. It's coming hard, trust me. So we're gonna keep putting our genetics out there and letting everybody, win off that, and letting our homies grow them, and keep trying to select with homies like, you know, in the building right now.
No doubt.
We got phenos in the we got phenos in the building right now.
He's got some dope new phenos on him.
The phenos are on site.
Buckle up.
The phenos are on site.
Hell yeah. Yeah, man. The future is bright, my friend. And that's you playing your part. Like, you guys creating these seeds and giving them out to the world. I heard something where we were in Spain where shit is still super illegal in many ways. And like, some of these seed companies were like, every seed we sell is a fuck you to the government, their government. Because, they're standing up for something, you know what I mean? And I thought that was dope. That whole mantra was dope. Because they're still like, man, my man's worker got tackled in front of Spanibus for 10 jars of rosin. Like,
yeah, they're still tripping out there.
Fucked up.
Ty won't even go
bad,
out there,
bro.
right?
It was bad. Like, homie got locked up. Like, man. And here, never mind.
It's everybody
shut
sees
it
it
on
on
Wiggle.
Instagram.
Yeah,
Just
it looked
know
sweet.
still-
It wasn't sweet. We had to move. I was moving like Jersey 9-7. Yeah, it was good. What are you gonna do? So, what percentage of actual sales are coming from social media, and is social media even important
Man,
these
you got the
days?
best questions, JP, man. I swear, these are very well thought out.
Thanks, pal. Thanks, pal.
I appreciate you asking that one too. It's crazy that you asked that because I just actually came off of like this 8-month hiatus on my social media due to unforeseen circumstances that I couldn't control.
Yeah, no
But
doubt.
I just got them. I recently got my account back, and I can honestly say that we had, since we were off social media, we had our busiest month historical ever in the
Let's
rec
go.
market, California. All of our other states didn't see any decrease in sales. Everybody was upset at first. They were like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do?
No doubt.
And I was like, it's good. I think it's going to be all right. And it was cool.
Nice.
And so I guess my point of what that comes from this is, it's a very good question that you asked, is that I recommend that everybody make sure that they become ultra resourceful when being on social media. That's how I do it now. I'm very intentional with using it. I don't just get on and scroll. I don't waste my time on there. I get on there with a purpose, and I use that content knowing that that content can get deleted or taken at any moment. So it's like you can only use it for a means to an end. Maybe you should promote other platforms, make sure that you're promoting your agenda in a way that it turns over to sales. But I think that a lot of people kind of lost focus, this industry, and just the way that they design social media is something that, you're addicted to. You're going to be posting everything from your food to your cars to your kids, and that's cool if that's your kind of account that you want to make. But if it's like in this business, we're talking business right now, correct? And
Absolutely.
my account, and all my accounts, every account that I have is a business account. I don't have any personal account. I don't have a need to be on there personally. I don't want to be on there personally. So, I think that it's very important to remember all that. And I'm one of the people that, of course, over the years got lost in the sauce. I've been, we were, doing these things. So it's like I feel like at the time, a lot of times that high engagement and stuff that I was getting would, I guess, kind of satisfy a certain need that made me feel maybe like I was growing. But the numbers themselves, even if they were good, it's like it didn't really necessarily matter even when that went away. Continued to grow. So it's like,
No doubt.
I think it's just about like diversifying yourself, on a level that's deeper than social media. Some of these guys, like, worst case scenario is losing their social media, and I think that you should always keep that in mind as being a possibility, because as long as cannabis is federally illegal and as long as there's still haters in the world, we're going to have issues with social media accounts going down. So, I don't think to answer your specific question, I personally don't think that the cannabis sales are very affected by social media. Single-digit percents, man. If even like more than one hand worth of percents.
Okay.
Not very many of them, though. Not very many percents. You know what I'm saying?
Let's take it a little deeper on a personal level. You and me were rapping on the way over here. Like, what were you able to do, like, when you were off? What was the benefit for you when you were off social media?
I mean, beyond everything personal, just my business, my work rate went way up. I started focusing on a lot of real world activity, and kind of being, not bogged down by all of the other influence on social media was allowed me to kind of, just being off there kind of allowed me to not feeling like, when you're on, sometimes when you're like on there, you feel like you gotta respond to everybody. You just kind of gotta like, give it some time, man. I feel like step away from it is a good thing, but it just helped me to be able to come with more creativity.
Yep.
And that shit just compounds over time. You start seeing like, you put in, you up your work rate, you might not notice a difference the first month. Second month, okay, you notice a couple differences. Third month, oh damn, I'm getting dialed in. Fourth month, you know what I mean? It keeps compounding, and you just gotta like ride off that traction. And I'm just at a place now where I felt like I'm, very focused. I understand exactly what I want for the brand right now. I understand exactly how I need to, to execute that. And I've never been like that in my whole life. So
Nice.
killer.
That was supposed to happen, my friend.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it did
to,
for
man.
you. You know.
Yeah, man. Thank God.
So let's take it outside of the States, bro. Let's take a travel around the world real quick. First of all, how did you start Doja BCN? Like, how did that all come together? Like,
Well, I mean,
how do you put the
Barcelona
piece together?
is a beautiful city to me, man. I love it out there, and I just feel like it was something that, like, it was to me. You know what? One of the reasons it was too, JP, is
Oh,
like we could have gone to Amsterdam first, and that's a legendary spot.
no doubt.
But it was like Barcelona kind of has a neutral ground feeling to it. A lot of people come there from all over. It's like Amsterdam's the same way as a lot of tourism, but you know, Barcelona is like a hub that people come from all over Europe, UK, Ireland, Germany, Switzerland. Most people aren't local, so it's like they're coming in from other places, and so it was kind of like a good place, kind of like kind of like California. People from the States come visit here to get a little taste of the cannabis culture and to link up, and you know what I mean, do that kind of thing. So I just felt like it was a good location, not only geographically but just culturally. So how did it come about? It just like we were going out there more often than not, and I like lost my passport one time, and I got stuck in Barcelona for like 3 weeks, and I was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna make some shit happen. You know what I mean?
Damn, that happened over you losing your passport and just staying. Oh wow,
Kind of, yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah, so I like turned up. I actually, because of that 3 weeks, I had Kieran got on salary with me, and he's been like really running it up since. Now he's partnering in our European project. And then we opened the Doja BCN store, which is another affiliation. I do partnerships with my guys out there on that. So they already had a couple clubs in town. It was only inevitable. You know what I mean? They were
Wow.
like, let's run it up. We know how to do this. I was like, cool. So we actually have ownership over that. It's not just a licensing deal. That's an actual Doja operation.
Yeah, yeah, and a nice operation. If you ever go, you gotta check it out. It's fire. Super clear, very nice, good staff, good vibes. And shout out to Kieran, man. Like that dude's a very capable dude. I see why you're working with him. I got to meet him. I've
Shout
heard a
out
lot
to
about
Kieran,
him.
man. He's a real
Yeah,
one.
yeah, for
Gotta
sure.
have it's very important to have the right team, and that's why, something about me, I've always been able to cultivate organic relationships, and I think that just becomes from like this love of the plant. Everybody,
No doubt.
that's something we find in common with each other. So
And that's bugged out. When you go across the world, you really do see that common denominator of the plant that all brings us together. Like
energy was real, right?
it's so real, bro. And I'm meeting all these people that I kind of knew that you were partnered up with, and kind of knew the story. And I'm like seeing how solid they are and how
Yeah, it's
hospitable
cool
they
to get
were.
all the international
Yeah, bro.
figures of cannabis in one spot.
And that's what it felt like. That's what it felt like.
That's good networking right there.
Yeah, if you're in the game and you've only been in the U.S., you're doing yourself a disservice by not going overseas and seeing how big this really is, bro. Like, it messed me up, bro. And once you stretch your thinking, you can never go back. You know what I mean? So that's what it did for me. It stretched my thinking and showed me what was possible. And now I know what to do to get the pizza over there. You know what I'm saying?
And like the thing is, like, I guess, being that we're at Olive Flowers, and this is something that we're in the California marketplace. It's like, how does all this pertain to the California market? And I guess the way I would see that is that, being able to, as we're looking forward into the future, obviously brands have different goals. You know what I mean? Some people may want to focus most of their energy on California expansion. Some people might be diversifying their operation a little bit more, like we are. The truth is, right now in California, the market is, it's not the best that it's ever been.
No, sir.
It's a hard time right now for everybody, even people like us. So, as you grow, sometimes the vision is going to be bigger than one market can handle. So, if I was only in California right now, we wouldn't have enough resources to grow at the rate that we need to grow, and it would be, putting us in a box. So I guess one of the reasons why, how does this pertain to California? Well, it gives our company the resources needed to be able to get to the next level, to be able to get single source cultivation, to be able to pull our, genetics from other places and bring them back home, and select and breed the next generations of those genetics, and continue this genetic IP development that we're doing to be able to differentiate ourselves from the other people in this game. And that all starts here. So,
Yeah.
California is always should be known as like, this is the spearhead of the movement. This is the most, most important work goes on here. It's like,
The flagship.
if the world is this restaurant, then this is the kitchen. And this is the most important part of the restaurant. So, it's like what we do in our flagship California operation is what we're mirroring in every market. So the SOPs get created here.
Absolutely.
You understand what I'm saying? Like the quality standards, the design, the vision comes from California. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So being that it was my first trip out there, and I know what that did for me, right? I'm curious, like, how did your world change in terms of like cannabis knowledge, worldwide vision, and ultimately the opportunities when you started traveling the world and seeing these other cannabis markets? Like, what did that do to you?
I mean, it gave me a broader perspective of everything. I realized that there's, this shit's just the beginning of something that's going to be, someday it's going to be worldwide. I mean, it's coming. It's inevitable. I mean, it's kind of like how everything else is, alcohol. Everything else, it'll get to that point.
Absolutely.
So it's just like we're at an exciting time. So it's cool to see it. It's changed my perspective in the ways of like I feel like it's given me hope. Sometimes being bogged down by the, certainly the obstacles of the California market can be kind of stressful. If I kept my mind, I really got a lot of respect for my guy Jacob, because he's taking these hits all day and just keep moving forward. But it's like he has to deal with a lot, man. These stores ask for a lot. These buyers out here, all these people walking around, they ask for a lot, man. They want a lot of samples. They want a lot of promotion. Promotion. They want a lot of, to make them sell their weed. So it's like, cool, we'll play that game too, but if you're just letting that bog you down all day, it's hard to be creative. So it was cool to be, that's why I diversify, look outside the box. I bring those skills back here, try to level our industry, our operation up in California, and then let that all go from the outside, from the inside out.
Yeah, I feel it, bro. You certainly do. You got a good team, man. So tell me about the GMP movement and the channels that you have in place with CP Medical to take your brand worldwide.
Yeah, so we just, it's very complicated, but I can kind of like sum it up,
No doubt.
It's like, it's really complicated, all the way down to like, you have to have your jars approved by every country that you go to, and you know what I mean? But
sure,
there's a lot of shit you gotta do. Obviously, I'm working with a very competent team to make things happen. The update right now is basically we have a facility in Thailand that we've been working with for a little bit over a year and a half. They have our genetics out there, they're growing. It's a friend of mine that is overseeing the production that I used to work with in California. And basically, we worked with them for over a year and a half before we started branding the work that they were doing, obviously. So it takes, the R&D process is long and hard, as it always is. We held the same stringent, like, standards of what we do to that too, and the product got to where we were comfortable putting it out. We just did our first export last Saturday. The product went live in Australia, so
let's go.
We exported GMP medical legally from Thailand to Australia. We have another operation coming up where we're going to be able to go directly from Thailand to the UK medical. And as we're speaking, my friends are actually, looking at the facilities in Portugal, because we have one we're working with already, but we're looking for a secondary situation to try to set up Portugal as a hub to be able to serve all of the European Union and, surrounding region with medical, with the fastest turnaround rate. So Portugal will have a much faster rate of importation than Thailand, with the GMP conversions that we have to do coming from Thailand. Basically, everything in Portugal is ready to go.
That was my next question. How? Because
Portugal's going to be coming to California. We're going to be doing Hall of Flowers Portugal 5 years.
fire. That was my next question because we're QC freaks. You know, nobody wants old weed. We're always stressing on how quickly can we get this finished flower into the package, COA to the customer.
So there's going to be a
What's
little
the
learning
timeline,
curve.
bro?
There's going to be a little learning curve.
Yeah, I
man.
bet.
Right now it's been like, so the weed that we just dropped was like probably about 3 weeks old, which
Okay.
sometimes out here we like to be well into the process already of selling
Sure.
it through. But I just felt like at some point somebody's got to be experimental. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm willing to give up a little bit of, we're steering the ship. So even if we hit a rock or something, we're gonna be all right. I'll steer it back.
That's right.
We just gotta figure this out. Somebody's gotta figure it out. I'm not gonna miss on this because it's gonna take 3 weeks to get to market. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna figure it out though. But as with that being said, it's the pressure's on from me specifically onto all these people to figure out the most effective and efficient method, to get everything to where it needs to be. It's just so much right now. It's just so much government regulation. Going to Germany, it has to, like if you right now, for instance, we can't go directly from Thailand to Germany. We would have to go from Thailand to Portugal to Germany.
That sounds like a nightmare.
Thailand to Australia to Germany type
God,
shit. So
bro.
it's like everything is all based off of the bureaucratic allowances and shit like that. So.
Well, the good news is, what I've observed when we were out there, they have no problem smoking old weed.
They have no problem.
A lot of
They're
old weed
used
out
to
there,
old
bro.
weed. I mean, that's pretty much what they get. So it's like, I hate to put it like that, but it's like, with that being said, our standards, I was looking at the product that we dropped and it was still living, man. It was nice. So,
nice.
It's just because we, those processes, as long as we have good SOPs on handling and all that, plus the packaging is up to standard, then I feel like everything should work. We're using a nice Myron jar out there, so it's like a nice glass medical jar with a concealed gasket and everything. So, so different precautions and different steps we can take to try to perfect the process, like we always do. And we'll stay innovative and stay. It's a linear situation. It's not going to be like it just we get it day one, but we'll get it eventually.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about what you manifested at your club and the lucky step in your club.
Yeah,
because that was the Australia deal, right?
So,
hit him with that story. That was crazy.
Yeah, basically, this dude comes to Doja Barcelona last year. It was our first year being open at Cannabis. We opened late 23, so 24 was really busy for us. We were seeing like 1,000 people a day. And so there was lines all day. It was super overwhelming. Everybody wanted to talk and take pictures. And this dude came in and he was kind of standing around in a suit and he was standing on this step. It's like the third step down. And I saw him and he told me like, hey, when you get a moment, let me have a word with you. And since he had a suit on, I was like, I felt like he had put enough effort in. I noticed those kind of things. And I'm like, even though he has a suit, and I don't really always identify with people wearing suits, I was like, cool, I'm gonna try to give this guy a time of day. So I ended up hearing him out. He was talking about the GMP thing. It was kind of, at the time, it was a little over my head, but I knew a little bit about it, and I knew we were already working on the thing in Thailand. So I just kind of heard him out, but then I, respectfully just told him like, hey, well, that's cool, but we need to figure out the supply chain first. And you fast forward to 6 months later when we started to, work through the things with CP in Thailand. He told me like, hey, we got to take a Zoom call with this guy that we're going to be partnering with to do all of our distribution. He understands the GMP thing. And he's, a really good partner for us to have. We go live in the Zoom meeting and it was that dude, right, from the steps. And I was like, damn, that's the dude with the suit, right?
Yeah.
And so he ended up becoming part of this. We partnered up with him, we incorporated and everything. And then the other day, that day he came in the first time was Saturday night of Cannabis 2024. And then this Saturday night of Cannabis 25, last Saturday, he came back to the club and he was just standing on the step, the third one down, and he just kind of stood over there. And I saw him out of the corner of my eye, and then I didn't think much, and I was like, oh, wait, that's James. And I walked over there and I'm like, what's up, James? And he was like, hey, I just want to tell you that your product hit the stores of Australia today on the Saturday Night Expanded was 2025.
Crazy.
Exactly a year later from me standing on his steps. And, you know, I respect that kind of thing because he told me that night that his goal in life was to work with me. And, you know, he made that happen, man. So
A lot of
beautiful.
manifestation.
Shout out to Australia. Shout out
Yeah.
to all the beautiful people of the UK and Australia and Switzerland, Poland. We have Germany. My boy Stefan. We got a bunch of big things in the works, man. A year from now, it's going to be a lot more to talk about.
That's right. That's right. So, I think one of the most iconic people that I met out there that I was really, you know, honored to meet, that you introed me to, was Derry from Barney Farms, right? What was it like to meet him and like get all the knowledge from him and just like learn about his story and then starting to work with this guy? Like, that guy was incredible, bro. It blew my mind. Like what you told me about him and, you know, the little game we chopped up while we were out there.
I mean, it's cool to see a lot of the European legends, you know, guys like him and Aryan and Sensi Seeds and dudes that have been around since we were like, you know, me and you were 80s babies, even since we were kids, you know. So when I first met Barney's Farm, you know, Derry, the owner of Barney's Farms, I knew a little bit about him, but I didn't know his full background, you know. And after just like, you know, after like spending some hours with him and everything and just understanding everything the man's done, it's just insane, man. And it's like, it's beautiful to have people like that are like mentors. You know, he's got kids that are older than me, so, you know, he's kind of like Pops, you know, he's looking out for me too. So he's been helping me understand the game, you know, from a seed level. You know, there's a whole future to this that doesn't involve having to have, you know, the living plants all day, you know, and that's him, you know. He's creating seeds and making millions doing it and, you know, creating a worldwide legacy. And so it's really cool to link with guys like him. You know, all of the European legends, man. Those guys seem to be, you know, they seem to be at a more broader understanding than us already, just because they kind of started at a different era and had to go to southern India and Thailand, Burma, and all this to even get these land-raised genetics to be able to create the stuff that they created in the Netherlands back in the 80s and 90s. So it's like, man, it's just, you know, it was the preemptive era of what we do now. So it's cool to just really get in touch with that level of origins. You know what I mean? Like pre-Humboldt origins. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, we came up in the trapping era. They were the smugglers.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Yeah, a whole nother level. When it was super illegal. Yeah, man. Before we dip up out of here, you know, what advice would you give an up-and-coming brand in the industry? You know, what's my main focus on my next move? Maybe that's somebody that's, you know, a couple steps behind you or just getting started. You know, they got big dreams and aspirations. What's the next move?
I mean, it really depends.
No, that's kind of loaded.
That's kind of really like broad, but we can narrow it down. It's like, I guess it just depends on really, you know, there's a lot of times that I think the best, you know, advice that comes to my head when you ask this question is that there was a lot of times that I kind of like, I feel like I did a little too much, and you know, you can't do everything. You have to kind of focus in on, I mean, like even Warren Buffett says, make a list of the top 5, you know, top 10 things you should be doing, and then mark everything off the list except the top one or something. I don't know what he says. I can't quote Warren Buffett, but he says something like that. And it's like, that's really what you need to be doing, man. It's like dial in on a couple things that you feel like, as it looks like I'm doing a lot, I'm really not doing a lot. I'm still doing it minimal as I can, and, you know, trying to make everything work, and it's like my routine has been able to allow me to get to this level, but it started by not doing that much and not overloading myself, burning out, trying to do too much, moving around too much. So I guess I feel like just honing in, man. 2025, we need to hone in. A lot of us been moving around too. I did that, you know, for years. And I feel like now that I haven't been for the last 8, 9, 10 months of my life, I've seen progress in that time that's exponential of what I was seeing when I was moving around. But then again, you know, there's time and place. You had to move around to get that progress in the first place. So just knowing when to take it to the next level, change seasons in life. You know, just because it's something that worked yesterday doesn't mean it's going to work tomorrow. And you always just have to always be like understanding that you have to constantly change your cycle up. You know, and there's people that stay on the same consistent path, but I've been somebody that stayed very fluid. I think it's fluidity is very important with the end goal in mind. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you have to have a solid goal. You have to have a solid roadmap, and you have to be able to roll with the punches. You know.
Well said, my friend. Good stuff, bro. Well, is there anything you want to plug before we get up out of here? Anything they need to know outside of all the jewels you just dropped?
I mean, I think we covered everything.
Beautiful.
You know.
Well, thank you.
Who you got coming on the podcast soon, man? What do you have going on? What's your next move in life? You still got, like Adam said, 10 stoner minutes. I mean, you know, I think you should.
Oh, no. He said we up out of here. I got the 5-minute warning. 5 minutes. Go,
right,
player.
Right.
You ain't about to start asking me questions. No. My next move.
Up, though, man. You said this last one.
We got dairy, bro. Thanks to you, man. We got dairy from Barney Farms. I'm super excited about that one. You know, we got a lot of part 2 interviews coming up. We're not going to reveal them.
What's the one you just did, Black Sheep?
Yeah, Black Sheep's live right now. The homie T Figs from Blueprints about to drop next Monday. That was a dope conversation.
It's not a 5-minute warning, so I need you to look at this and describe this for everyone.
What we got here, buddy?
This is one of our newest ones.
Oh, this is my favorite one. That's that papaya mosa. This is my favorite one.
This is history of the party poppers.
I'm not just saying that.
LCG, Blueberry Mimosa.
This is silly.
Number 12.
Yeah, this is fucking Turp Town, my friend.
I mean, you know, it's got kind of like a little different fruit syrup, not full mosa.
No, it's not fully. I mean, you smell all the
candy on it.
You smell the candy. You smell the papaya. You smell the mosa.
2.8% yield on this, just under where it needs to be, but we're gonna still run it up anyways.
And was that from the project from Nevada City?
Higher vibrations.
High vibrations. Yep.
Single source, fully organic material.
Yeah.
So this is popping.
That was exciting to watch, bro.
Very exciting.
But Chris is my best friend.
That's what
you know what I'm saying? So that was
kind of
really
stuff
cool.
We need to be seeing out here, man. Let's see more of that. Let's see less branding.
Yeah.
More operation.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Shout out to the big dogs.
Shout out to the big dogs, man. Shout out to you and all your contributions to the game. Thank you for all the knowledge you dropped and you know what you've been up to. Thanks for sharing that with us, man. And thank you for considering me to speak. Thank you, Hall Flowers. You already know, dog. Yep. Doja Pak, Good Pizza, Hall Flowers. Peace, love, good pizza. We up out of here.